And we're back for the next step. Got me a fresh bourbon and cola. Got my ingredients for the next step set up for the pico. Once we're done with the pico, we're going to add a small quantity of the pico to the top of the roast. It's been cooking now for just a little over 2 hours. The smells in here are absolutely incredible already. I've got 1 tablespoon of black coarse ground pepper, 1 teaspoon light salt, and 1 tablespoon of granulated garlic. I know a lot of pico recipes don't generally have garlic in them, but I guess it's the Italian in me. Gotta have garlic in everything. Garlic and beer is my 2 favorite ingredients of any dish I ever cook. Anyway, I've done a little pre-prep prior to this segment, but what we're working with is 5 Roma tomatoes, and I choose Roma in my pico because there isn't as much liquid in the tomatoes, in Roma tomatoes, that there are in other tomatoes. So it's just to keep the pico itself from getting very soggy, for lack of a better term. And I like my pico, and I've never heard anyone complain about how I make my pico in the past, so I'm just going to stick with it. So 5 to 6 Roma tomatoes going in the bowl. White onion, 1 whole white onion, diced coarsely. I just like a coarse cut pico due to the fact that it adds so much more texture to your taco. So instead of just having meat and a tortilla, you're adding a ton of vegetable texture with great flavors that really just add to the taco itself. Whole orange bell pepper, julienne it down, cross cut coarsely, throw that in. Whole yellow bell pepper, and yes, I know bell pepper, right? Whoever puts bell pepper in pico, well, I do. I love it. I love the added flavors, the added texture, the added pop and freshness that the bell pepper adds to the pico. I learned this recipe long time ago from my mother to make fresh homemade pico. Yeah, I've tweaked it over the years to suit me and my flavors. Next, whole deveined, de-seeded jalapeno. You want to get rid of the veins, you want to get rid of the seeds. If you don't, because it's all fresh, the capsaicin, the oil that makes a pepper hot, it's going to overpower the pico, and you just want this to be very fresh and light. Next is cilantro, and I generally like to keep my cilantro rough chopped like I did with the pork shoulder, but in this case I want the cilantro to impart more of its oils into the dish, so I'm going to finely chop this. And then something I learned a while back is to smash it. Really gets the oils to come out. And don't worry about any stems or anything like that, because they'll be just fine. once it's all mixed together, because you're going to have so much more texture in the rest of the vegetables that you're adding this to. But I just like to take this, give it a smash, get the oils to come out, scrape it up, throw it in there, get all them oils and all the aromatic factors of the cilantro. Then we're going to go with our first wet ingredient, lime juice. Like to squeeze them up just a little bit, get them to start bursting, get all the juices to start flowing. Grab my juicer, pop it in there, and go ahead and just squeeze as much juice out as you can. And you know, if you don't get as much juice as you want out of one lime, add another half or two. Now we're going to go with our tablespoon of black pepper, teaspoon of salt. I prefer to use light salt personally, and a full tablespoon of granulated garlic. Give that a little bit of a mix. Probably should have picked a bigger bowl for this section, but it's starting to look really, really good, as you can tell. And the flavor, the aroma just coming up in my face right now is just, it's so potent, it's so strong. It just smells so, so good. Now, once you get it mixed up, go ahead and pour it into a serving dish. Get all that goodness out of there. All right. And now here at our 2-hour mark, pico's done, ready for service. But I'm going to take one more step, and I'm going to add a couple spoonfuls of this to the crock pot right on top of the pork shoulder. But I'm going to have a drink of my bourbon first. All right. One other aspect to this recipe is the orange, to impart citrus other than lime, which is very traditional, into the pork, an orange. Orange is my favorite. This is something I learned many, many years ago from a very, very old woman at a carniceria in Southern California that grew up in Mexico, and told me that a fresh orange squeezed into the pot or the pan while the pork is cooking is the secret ingredient, basically. So you want to get all that orange, just put it right on top, right on top. It's just, it's really going to change the flavor. And when you think of carnitas, traditionally, it's not very, what's the term I'm looking for here? Very flavorful outside of just the general spices and the onions and the jalapenos. But when you add this orange, it just adds a level of savoriness that you'll really, really enjoy. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take a couple spoonfuls of this awesome pico here, and you look how brightly colored it is. It's not just a meal for the body, but it just to look at it, it's a beautiful dish. So I'm going to spoon on right on top. I'm not even going to worry about spreading it out, because it's going to move, it's going to migrate as the cooking process goes forward. And so all these very, very vibrant and fresh ingredients are going to impart their flavors into the pork as well. So step 2, all done.